if you could take a moment and go to thegrowingbanddirector.com to give at least $5 or $3 a month, and it helps the content continue to be created for you to help our profession grow. Let's go back to our scheduled episode. Welcome back to the Growing Band Director podcast. This is episode, I have no idea. It's Friday of Midwest. This is day 3. And I'm here with fabulous composer and new friend, Laura Estes. How are you?
I am fine. How are you?
Wonderful. We did a podcast number 105. I actually remember it.
Okay.
Craft Your Rehearsals for Success.
Yes.
I think we called it that. Because you wanted to talk about how you planned your rehearsals and how you worked rehearsals so that your students were really successful.
Yes.
So if people want to hear about that, go back. It's still there. Watch it, listen to it. We also featured a bunch of your pieces, 5 or so, I don't remember the exact number.
I don't remember the number either.
But people can see the score of sound. Also, they can look you up. How many pieces do you have published at this point? Do you have that number in your head?
I actually just counted it up because I was asked it. I didn't know. There are 20 currently out.
Yep.
And 6 more coming out in April.
Great. You're a great writer.
Thank you.
I was just talking with Terry White, and Terry White's like, she's a great writer.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I want to get into a little bit. So people know the name Viet Quang, right? As one of the most prolific composers out there right now. And you were his middle school band director.
Yes.
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 So that's pretty cool.
I think it's very cool.
Yeah. Proud moment.
Yes.
And the reason we wanted to talk about it, and I know this kind of makes you sad and very emotional, not happy. I don't know if I have the emotion right, but it's very touching, and you want this message to get out to people.
Yes.
So let's talk about it.
Well, taught Viet for 7th grade only. And then the next year I was at a different school. And so he moved in. He came in just a sweet, brilliant 12-year-old in the percussion section, well-behaved, quiet, doing, if you could envision your perfect band student, there he was, sweet Viet. I loved him as much as I did any of my other students.
Yep.
Loved them all.
And you didn't say this guy's going to be a band composer.
Oh, I had absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
When I saw him the other night, he said we were going over the pieces that we played that year. He remembered all of them. And so we started singing them to each other. And then he said that after one of the pieces, he went home and did a mock-up of it, but I didn't know that until 2 nights.
So whether or not he wanted to compose deep inside and didn't tell you, or the music you selected sparked him wanting to be a composer.
I get the feeling that he always had that inside of him,
yep.
But I had no idea.
But a bad teacher can derail that.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah. And you said he almost quit, or he said you just learned.
On Tuesday night, we were sitting next to each other because I was so excited that both of our pieces were on the same program. I mean, that's a super proud band director moment. And I'm just so proud of Viet and everything that he's done. And he told me that he almost wasn't in band in 7th grade, and that his father, when they moved back to the area and came to our school, that he didn't want to be in band, and his father made him. And he reluctantly came into my band class, and he said that, I don't want to put words in his mouth, I'm just paraphrasing kind of, he said I was warm and welcoming and positive and encouraging, and made him love band again. It's hard for me to actually say it, but that was kind of what he said. And I had no idea. And I looked over at him because I was feeling tears. And I said, when we were in a rehearsal with the one of the groups playing at Midwest, and I turned to Viet and I said, "You are going to make me cry right here in front of all of these students." So, but it was a beautiful moment that we shared. And then he showed me that he had shared that with the band director, the Rouse band director, and that he showed me an addendum to their program with the story. And that was the first time I had heard his story about them.
You know, we just don't know what these kids are going to go on and do. I mean, not that everybody has, you know, this next great composer in their 7th grade percussion section, but you just don't know the impact that you're having on children.
You don't. And I think it took me maybe 2 years or so into my career, many years ago, that it was like an epiphany. It dawned on me just how much of an impact a teacher has on their students. And you just don't know how far reaching it is. And you, with the things that you could say that could really make or break a student. And unfortunately, I've seen some negative, I've seen a lot of positive, but these are real human beings that are changing and growing. And we don't know what's going on at home. And I'm not making excuses, let's say, for bad behavior or things like that, but there are ways to handle things with respect and, you know, showing the students that you believe in them and that you're there for them.
One of the things I think you would subscribe to, just to know, I mean, I've never seen you teach a student, but the whole teaching from the light thing that Mike Pope talks about, it's you know, there's so many things to go into, but assuming they're trying, assuming the student is trying, and that the student wants to be good. Now, you might say, well, you're not practicing. You don't want to be good. Okay, so I'm not saying that's an absolute.
But I don't agree with
Okay.
that. So like, yeah, maybe they're not putting in the time at home and they're not practicing. Maybe they come into rehearsal unprepared. But once the student is in that rehearsal, they want to do it right. They may not be prepared to do it right. They, you know, need to address that. But nobody wants to sound bad. Nobody wants to sound.
He also mentioned student that they're not lazy. Now, doesn't mean there isn't a lazy student here or there, but don't just assume this kid doesn't want to do it. This kid is lazy. Now, again, there are exceptions, but when you just assume those best out of them,
yes,
and then you just try to give them a solution for the issues that they're having very plainly and tailored to them.
And respectfully, put them in a corner and, you know, just give them an opportunity to succeed.
Yep.
No matter what their level is.
What a great message. I'm just going to ask you a couple questions that are off the top of my head. A piece of music that when you were a band director that you love doing and you think people should do. Not one of yours. Yeah.
Well, I have it.
Yeah, right.
As a band director, you know, two pieces are coming to mind right now. And to me, a newer piece, you know, within the last 10 or 15 years or whatever of my career, I love Rippling Watercolors by Brian Balmages, and I just love his music.
And it's a grade 2, but it reaches any level.
Yes, it has a killer horn part, and it's just gorgeous. And on the last day that my last year of teaching, my band, the advanced band, or I should say the 8th grade band, because I was doing the 7th grade band at the time, had performed that. and they knew how much it meant to me. And so they played it for me, and then I cried in front of all of my students. But so that piece.
Well, in that piece, if they think a little bit of Eric Whitacre, it has this like blending of harmonies.
Exactly.
You just imagine watercolors with water going through them, and they kind of, yeah.
It's so beautiful.
It's really nice.
And then a piece from a long time ago that just is not easy. Kentucky 1800. I love that piece. It is hard for middle school, the scoring of it, but oh my gosh, if you can play that and go back and play some of those greats, they're important.
And that piece, if you're looking for a standard band rep for your piece for your band, even if you're a high school teacher, it doesn't matter. It's accessible.
Yes.
It's not a baby piece.
No.
But it's Grunman. Because sometimes you go, I can't play it. We can't do that. We can't do that. Like, what is something standard band we can do? That piece. It's great anytime, festival. But it's a great festival piece. I mean, there's so much in there.
Yeah. It's just a perfect piece.
Wonderful. And any piece that we're teaching people history, I think is pretty cool.
I'm sorry, I heard you.
Oh, and anytime we're doing a piece that teaches people some history.
Yes.
Right. So that's music from Kentucky in the 1800s. So,
yes.
Last thing, let's talk about the pieces that you've had that have been performed here.
Okay.
I don't remember. So I need your help on this one.
You don't need to remember, but I do remember.
Of course.
I remember that. I still, as I'm now saying this to you, I can't believe that these pieces were performed or played at Midwest. These words are coming out of my mouth, but
surreal.
I'm saying it, but I can't believe it. But Kvetcher's was performed, Civvy Vaughn, and those are band pieces, and strings piece, Cook Strait Crossing.
Yep.
It's also a band piece, Cook Strait Crossing.
Yep.
But I wrote it for strings also. And then I had a full orchestra piece in the Orchestra Midwest reading session.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very thrilled about that.
Yep.
Because that's the first one I'd ever done. And then in the Exceclia reading session, I had two pieces, Rising Earth and Binary 0101, which is a 0.5 piece.
It's great. How would you characterize for people who've never listened to a piece of yours? Like, do you have a character in your music that is prevalent?
I actually don't think so.
Okay.
I'm trying not to.
Okay.
I like combining opposites, but I'm just really trying to, if I decide I'm going to write a particular grade level, or maybe I have a melody and I think, okay, this would fit a particular grade level, then I'm trying to just make interesting, fun, meaningful parts so that when somebody calls the name of the piece, they don't groan. I don't want that.
Well, you do a great job at writing those.
Thank you.
It's great to see you in person.
It's wonderful to see you in person. I feel like I know you. So
that's right.
And I think you're just doing a fantastic job. Thank you for what you're doing for our profession.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Very well done.
Exceclia Music Publishing is proud to sponsor the Growing Band Director podcast. Exceclia Music Publishing provides new music for concert band, jazz ensemble, solo and ensemble, and books for all levels and occasions, including a specially curated and robust selection of music for your contest and festival performances. A variety of overtures, marches, and lyric works included on numerous state lists await. Select music that's perfect for your contest and festival needs at exceliamusic.com. That's EXCELCIA music.com. Austin Custom Brass is a proud sponsor of today's podcast. They can be found online at austincustombrass.biz. The Austin Custom Brass shop is located in Kansas City, Missouri. They're frequent attendees at MEAs around the country, including a TMEA in Texas and Kansas and Missouri. They go to Midwest and Chicago and International Trumpet Guild. And give them a call today at 410-0826. If it's anything brass, they have it. Beginner to professional. This is a startup company from many years ago that's grown and grown and grown. Trent Austin has done a fantastic job with this. They're great people. They have many types of instruments from Adams to Rath trombones and Shires and Getzen and Edwards and Schilke and Lotus and Courtois and many, many more. They have many new and pre-owned instruments. You can check them out online again at austincustombrass.biz. They also offer a great selection of high-quality, budget-conscious brass instruments for students and band programs, including being the exclusive dealer for Manchester Brass, great company. They also offer Brass Spire, Carroll Brass, John Packer, Y. Fort, and of course, their own wonderful line of instruments, a Austin Custom Brass Doublers line. Give them a call today at 816-410-0826 and find out why they can help you grow as a brass player. There are remarkable resources for all brass players, and they will do POs and work within your budget for your band program to get you what you need for your kids. Every time I'm in music theory and I say the note A, I have to say the Canadian note. And the kids never get it. I'm like, have you ever met a Canadian? They always say A.
It's true.
But it's, I don't know if it is, but like
No, it's true.
Is it true?
I say it all the time.
But I have to explain it and then it doesn't land. They say, okay, that's fine. It's like, okay, whatever.
You're our neighbors though, right? In Maine?
Yeah. So welcome back to the Growing Band Director Podcast here on Thursday of day 2 of Midwest 2024. Here with Matthew Rodnick, right?
Yeah.
From let me get the right, I'm going to forget. Which one is it? Oh yeah, Ontario Band Association. As a guy from Maine, Ontario and Ottawa, they're kind of the same, even though I'm sure they are nothing like.
Well, actually, Ottawa is in Ontario.
See,
So
this is what I don't know.
we have a whole team of people at the OBA in Ottawa. We have some events that are part of it. Yeah.
Okay. So you run, what is it called? Sorry. The Ontario Band Association.
Yeah. And I'm also a high school teacher at Georgian Bay District Secondary School, which is in Midland, about 2 hours north of Toronto.
Okay. So Dan Austin wanted you to come over and wanted us to meet. Sounds like you've listened to the podcast for a while.
Sure have. It's a great resource. The guests you have, always really insightful.
Beautiful.
And you hear from so many people. That's what's great about it.
Wow, I have a fan. My wife will be happy. I see somebody knows who I am. Okay, so talk about the band association. Like why, what is cool about it, how you run it and all that.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Ontario is a massive province and it's so easy for teachers to feel isolated. For us, from where I am, it's actually faster for me to drive to Florida than it is the top part of our province.
Stop it.
No, yeah. If I were to drive to Thunder Bay, it would be a 2-day drive, all within our province. So just given that and given how many small towns.
How do you do conventions?
We actually rotate cities. So we'll have one every year it'll be a different city.
Wow.
Yeah. And then something we're working on is how we serve the people in the north, because that's it's such a diverse region. Like there's people, and it's really hard to connect when it's, for most people a plane ride to just move up north. So,
wow.
Yeah, we've started a regional rep program where we're trying to get people in every region involved. But yeah, we offer many different events. We have a number of honor bands, symposiums for band directors. We've done online events, and then we have a number of band festivals as well.
I also love the podcast realm, not just this one, but any of them, because no matter where you are, if you have internet, like you can learn.
Yeah, it's been amazing. And I think that's something we really embraced, unfortunately, like everyone during the pandemic.
Is there an episode that got you listening to this podcast, or one that sticks out that if people maybe haven't listened, they should go back and listen to?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I've listened for, I think, close to the beginning, actually. Wow. Right? You mentioned it was 3 years now.
Yeah. Was there somebody who was a name and you're like, oh my gosh, I know that name?
Yeah, so Dan Austin is on our board.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if I started listening then when he mentioned he was on.
Yep.
Or if I had listened longer than that. Remember, I had a lot of long summer drives the last 2 summers where I just streamed them on repeat, and it was awesome.
It's funny. Some people don't do anything in the summer, related to band. To me, what we're doing right now is just sitting and having conversation. And if I don't want to have the conversation or you don't want to, we don't have to have the conversation. To me, it isn't work. It's we're just hanging out and discussing. So during the summer, I'll get some done because I've heard from a lot of people going on long drives. It's great to have something to listen to. But I know a lot of the other band podcasts are like, nope, it's July. I'm not saying the word band.
Yeah, and I think that's fair too. I guess whatever everyone's comfortable with. But for me, that's the time I can get stuff done.
Yep.
Well, not necessarily just get stuff done, but like listening to me is just fun.
Mhm.
There's no work involved. I might take some notes every now and then, but it's just a time to learn
Yeah.
and I won't feel pressured.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it also gets me excited sometimes for the new school year.
I
As
agree with
soon
you.
as I
Yeah.
start putting them on in August, I slowly ramp up. July, I start doing nothing. And then by the end of August, I'm ready to go.
Yep. So if we were to go to your school and see your program, what's something that you think you just turned 30, right?
I did,
So
yeah.
you've been teaching what, 8 years?
This is my 8th year, yeah.
I can do math. What's something that you do well?
So something I'm really proud of at our school is the student leadership culture
Okay.
that we've really created. So we have something called our music council, which I think a lot of schools do. I'm not sure if they're as common in the US as they are in Canada.
Yep.
In Ontario, they're certainly very common. But what we really have is we have students who take huge amounts of responsibility for their learning and for the program itself. And from the day a student walks into the program in grade 9 to the time they leave in grade 12, it's really a student guided journey from the time they enter to the time they graduate.
I love that.
In grade 9, we have my rule is get them involved as quickly as possible. Even if it's as simple as your classroom job is you are in charge of chair stacking.
Yeah.
Chair stacking is your portfolio. It gives them instant ownership in the program.
Mhm.
And it really just, it encourages them to feel like they're responsible for this program in even just that small way.
One thing that reminded me, I did an episode with Brian Christian a long time ago from Slam, and great band director from Texas, almost said Florida, Texas. And he said the line, he said, he said he was taught only do what only I can do as the band director. So don't do something that everybody else can do too. And it's not that you're trying to be lazy, but there's some things that only you can do. You need to have the time to do those things, like your score study, right? Where you're figuring things out, like some other things. You don't have to stack the chairs. Now, I personally stack chairs all the time, not in place of my kids, but with my kids, because I want them to see that I will work harder than you. And if I'm going to work this hard, you better work hard too. So I like that message. But in general, giving the kids things to do, that ownership piece you said is huge.
And I'm the exact same way. I need to, if there's a job to be done, I'm there doing it with them for the exact same reason, right? They need to see you're part of the team.
When I was younger, in marching band, what I would do would be like, all right, 20 push-ups, and I get down and do it with them, right? And I still will. It's like, I'm not just telling you to do it, I will do it too.
That's amazing. And I absolutely get them to do the stuff that you can't do. Because I fully admit there are many jobs that the students will do better than I will.
Yep. Like what?
For example, even just we have some students who are really into instrument repair.
Oh, great.
Honestly, that's been such a valuable tool, but they will spend a lot of time going through this inventory and making sure the instruments are working well. Whereas, sometimes I might just be like, I don't have time to look at this. It's just going to the shop. They will pull it apart. They will look at it.
I don't want you to lose your train of thought. I did some student teaching in Hawaii where my parents lived, and Waipahu, with a great band director named Joe Pacheco. And he had a class that was called instrument repair. The kids would take it in addition to their band class, and he knew enough and he had the supplies. He would teach them not everything, but when something needed to be fixed, okay, here's how we do this. So they were learning all these things. So that he saved money on it, and stuff could just get fixed. Okay, put that out, put that away. We'll take care of it period 1 tomorrow. And he had a whole class just called instrument repair.
That's, what, that would be a dream.
Yeah. We
actually got a large grant 2 years ago to buy a whole bunch of instrument repair supplies. And I did a 1-week program at Vandercook College in Chicago on basic instrument repair, but it was incredibly helpful. And then, I wanted to make sure anything that was doable by a student, they could do that.
Yep.
Like, I don't need to replace this. Well, I don't need to reset a spring if they can do it. And it's incredibly helpful. We have an inventory of instruments that are, from the 1970s. about 400 instruments, massive inventory. Nothing is working the way it should be. And when just 2 weeks ago in my one band rehearsal, I think we had 4 different instruments die.
Of course.
And as unfortunate as that is, I didn't have to deal with any of that because the students helped each other. They just walked out of the room. I have one student who's very, very knowledgeable. He
Yeah.
just handled that on his own outside, allowed the rehearsal to continue.
I was not trying to ignore you. I just pulled out my phone, which is like a no-no. But we're talking instrument repair, and there might be somebody driving who's like, "Ooh, I want to know more about that." So we do have 2 episodes where they're about an hour long. Episode 3 with Joe Betancourt and episode 169 with Andre Yaniello. Where literally people showing you on YouTube or talking through all these woodwind repairs. Like, okay, when this happens, here's how you fix it, and all that. So I just reference people to go back to that.
Well, that's such a great skill to have. So, yeah, student leadership is just
Right.
the cornerstone to everything we do. I don't know how it is some in the US always, but in Canada often we are islands as music teachers.
Yes.
This year we have another music teacher, which is amazing. Oh, I also bet that's a difference. We call ourselves music teachers, and I think
Band
mostly
directors.
in the US it's band directors. Yeah.
So I think music teacher is probably more accurate.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean we also teach guitar.
Well, how much
Choir.
band directing versus teaching the music? I mean, if you were to actually talk about those words. Yeah,
That's
I love it.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
This year I'm full instrumental music, so
Yep.
full band. But the other difference is our courses in high school in Canada are only 5 months long, semestered, and we have usually a class capacity limit of 33 students in each one of those classes. So it actually means there's music class during the day, which is your instrumental music class. And then your bands in most of the province are run as an extracurricular after school.
Wow, that's different.
Yeah. So there's pros and cons to that. I only will get to see my band maybe once to twice per week. But during the months where you have them in the class, you get to see them every day, but you won't have a full instrumentation. You'll have like 6 alto saxophones and 1 flute or something.
Yeah.
And so you have to really divide what you do in the classes versus what you do in that extracurricular band.
Requires you to be organized, that's for sure. Okay, what's a piece of music that you really love for band?
Okay, one piece I will have to give a shout out for, because this kind of turned our program around after COVID, is a piece by Kenley Christofferson, who's from Winnipeg.
Just met him. He's right down there.
Yeah, he has a booth. Yeah, not just down the next aisle from here, but he has a piece called Filum Vitae.
I've heard this. We put it on a podcast once. I think it was part of Dan's episode 122.
It was.
So if people want to hear it, go back and listen to it. Yeah.
And it's really worth it. Dan and I think we both performed it at Music Fest Nationals the same year. But
who was better?
You know what? I never heard his performance.
Right.
It was different. We were on different days. It's the safe answer. But it was just a transformational piece.
Why?
Every inner part it's a lyrical piece, but it's a lyrical piece my students absolutely loved. The tenor sax part had a lot of stuff to it. All the inner voices had something to do, and it was just like, even the percussionists, they loved that as a lyrical piece. Which, how often do you have your students saying that?
And there was enough to do for percussion?
There were the percussion parts were really well written.
Beautiful.
And the students, they just, at that point, we were coming out of the pandemic. All my students were brand new that year. And to go from basically playing nothing, they started at scratch that year, to it's a grade 3 piece, but they were just so motivated by the end of the year to really, they really wanted to sound good on that piece. And in fact, this year, all those students who were in grade 9 at the time are in grade 11 now, and they've all asked, can we play it again?
Yeah.
And we actually commissioned Kenley, the composer, to write us an original piece this year.
Fantastic.
So yeah, we're really excited about that.
It's beautiful. What about an older piece that you really like? I'll say, wow, I had one, and then I'm just going to go, it's not really that old, but I'm going to say a Longford Legend. It's on my Mount Rushmore. It's just a fantastic piece of music. Robert Sheldon.
Okay, yeah. I'm also going to give another Canadian answer because
Okay.
I feel like oftentimes some of these pieces aren't performed much outside of Canada.
Okay.
Howard Cable's Ontario Pictures.
Okay.
It's about a grade 5. We're considering actually maybe doing it this year, but it's such a cool piece. Howard Cable was kind of a legend in Canada as a
Okay.
composer. In fact, the National Composition Award is named after him. It's a 3-movement piece. Second movement has this beautiful trumpet solo called Point Peely.
Remind me of the name of the piece again.
It's called Ontario Pictures.
Got it. Trumpet brain.
Yeah, it's a fantastic, fantastic piece.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well,
Beautiful.
Kyle.
Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me on.
We sincerely appreciate you taking your valuable time and listening to the Growing Band Director podcast. Your students are very lucky to have a band director like you. If you have any suggestions for episode topics or think you have an area of expertise to share on a show with us, please reach out. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your band director friends to subscribe as well. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to The Growing Band Director. See you next week.